Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 181 at scavengerlife.com. We are talking to my mom and her husband, Mark, about what role her eBay store will play in their upcoming retirement.
So we wanted to talk to you guys because we have a lot of people who listen to us who are either retired or thinking of it's retiring. And these are people, it's like us. They don't want to stop doing their lives. Yeah. They don't want to stop it's working. Or maybe they've always dreamed of selling things. And I think it's interesting because you guys are a couple, which I don't know is as common, So we would love to kind of hear what your plan is. And so from what I understand is you guys have bought your kind of retirement home.
Right.
And you already have an eBay business.
Right.
But now this is going to be the kind of the big business, the final business.
The big full-time, the big push.
And so we would love to hear about how this is going to be run and what roles each of you are going to have and what you kind of want to get out of it,
Well, I think Mark and I have a little bit different viewpoints on how this is going to work.
It's still developing.
This is getting ironed out here right now.
It's called a work in progress.
Well, why don't we first talk about this place that you guys bought? How is it, tell us the layout and how the business will fit into it.
Yeah.
Well, we primarily bought this condo because it had 1,000 square foot basement.
That's a true eBayer. Like you buy a property.
We looked at 22 units. And the first thing I said was, where's the basement? Where's the basement? Where's the storage? Where's the space? And this one had the space.
So were there places that you guys turned down because it didn't have the...
Well, there was ways to make it work. Mm. They have a lot of, in this condo complex, the downstairs was made into a party area with a fireplace and a wet bar.
It's like a man cave.
And it walks out into... Right. And some of them were media type. So it would all take a renovation, and the one that we looked at was brand new construction with an unfinished basement that you could dress out.
With 8-foot ceilings.
And you weren't paying for somebody's idea of this is the right carpet and this is a nice bar, and all built in the 80s.
So I bet you kind of got it cheaper possibly because it was just a raw space, a raw basement.
We got it cheaper because the buyer was the builder was desperate to get rid of it.
Oh,
that's good.
That's the best.
But it worked. Whatever works.
Yeah.
So it's 900 square feet basement, right?
Open. It's a little over 900, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's all open, so we can configure it any way we want. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited because I want to have a designated area to work on artwork. Mm-hmm. I mean, you buy old artwork, you always have to clean it up, take the glass out, get the dead bugs out, whatever. And it's just nice to have a place where the frames and the backing paper and all that doesn't interfere with, like, the clothing.
Now, currently, you have a store, and it's in the basement as well, so you're going to have to move all this stuff.
Right.
But I know you've been talking about changing your inventory so the storage is different. So
right.
What stuff do you think you'll primarily sell?
Well, I'm trying to shift. I mean, if we go back to the beginning of my eBay business, I sold a lot of what I call hard goods. So it was a lot of dishes and depression glass and things that were hot at the time. And I've really moved away from that and went into the clothing model, which I will still continue to carry specific items of clothing, but not the really big, bulky
men's jackets,
men's winter coats that take up so much room. And I'm really trying to push the business more towards textiles because there's no fit involved.
Right.
So it still amazes me that people buy shoes on eBay without trying them on.
Isn't it amazing?
I mean, it works for me, but
yeah,
it's amazing. So the push is to flush out before the move the hard goods, the hard to pack, the hard to ship, and the bulky stuff, and streamline it down to the smaller,
so like scarves,
softer goods, scarves, hats, ties,
yeah,
fabric.
So is that
easy to store,
linens,
and easy to ship?
I have a question. What percentage of your store is what you would consider hard goods, like art and glass and?
I have a lot of hard goods that aren't listed. And so I would say it's probably less than 25%.
And you've been avoiding listing them probably
Exactly,
for that reason.
because my process is with the hard goods, photograph them, measure them, weigh them, pack them,
Yep.
and then list them. So all my hard goods have to be packed for shipment before they're listed.
Now, do you think 900 square foot? I mean, it sounds like that's too big for the kind of store you're
No.
going to have.
Not really.
Backing up just a little bit.
Sure.
I'm getting ready to retire in probably 12 to 15 months and be leaving a full-time job into full-time retirement. So our whole routine is going to change. We're not fixed where my job is, so we want to spend more time traveling. And that is going to change her business model in that some things we don't want to spend every day working the business. They'll be put the out of office sign out. So it's a reduction in inventory, and we're going to do a reduction in, not really a reduction in business, because now she'll have me full time to assist, whereas now I don't.
So is it going to be, so you guys are going to be kind of snowbirds, right?
Correct.
Go back and forth
Yeah.
between Florida and the East Coast.
And that's the challenge is we've been thinking about this for a long time. How do we actually keep the business open in 2 locations? And I don't think that that's doable, really. It would mean having 2 stores with inventory in Florida and inventory here, which
turn
is
one off and
turn one off and turn one on, which is not impossible to do. But we just haven't gotten that far in the process yet, because I'm thinking with 24 Rubbermaid totes, I could have a whole business in Florida.
Especially if it's small
Yeah.
items.
So you would bring your inventory, just bring it with you.
Just bring it with
I didn't
us.
even think of
Selected, yeah.
that. Okay.
Selected inventory. And again, that's where the textiles, the ties, the hats, stuff that will pack
Flat.
in a small confined space and easy to move,
Yep.
versus trying to move lamps. Or,
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
what's the motivation here? I mean, is this just it's fun cash,
Retirement.
or is this something that you guys will look forward to help pay actual bills and
Well,
make your life more comfortable?
I mean, obviously, we're going to lose income when he stops working, and we'll be on I love what they call a fixed income, which will be less than what we have now. But I really feel like the eBay money is travel money. You know, if we want to go to Greece for 8 weeks, we can do that,
should.
and eBay we should, and eBay will pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I cannot imagine what I would do all day if I didn't have something to occupy my time. And I just see myself doing this indefinitely.
I've told this before, but I remember when my dad retired, and he was civil service, and he said, I'm going to play golf every day. Well, that lasted about 2 weeks, and then he was just bored, and it sapped his health. He lost a lot of the social benefits of work, and
of solving problems and
and just
Facing challenges.
having a good reason to get up and go to work in the morning.
Right.
So this still provides something that you've got to plan your day and work at and get some satisfaction out of doing something and being rewarded for it.
Now, currently, do you help shop, as far as I understand it? What will your role be when you're full-time or when it's retired? Do you think?
My
Yeah, we want to hear this. Could you define
break
that
it
for us?
down.
we're still working on that business model.
What would you like to do? I mean,
Stay out of her way.
That's number one. I love that. That's number one.
you guys work well together.
Well, I do as much administrative stuff to free her up to do the technical stuff.
Well, one of the things that he took over for me this year was I have been very slack and not not because I didn't think it was important, but because I don't have the time, in keeping records of mileage. And I do keep a very good record of what I spend on inventory. But with the mileage deduction now, it's amazing what you can write off for mileage. So he's created spreadsheets, and I just hand him the receipts, and he does all of that because I can't be bothered.
And it's very easy because the receipt gives you the date and the location that you purchased, and with the Google Maps now, you can preload all that stuff in. So if we went to this thrift store or we went to this town, you get the mileage and you just put it into the spreadsheet, and then at the end of the year, you've got all your totals for what you spent, how many miles, if you stopped and ate food.
Right.
Everything
So smart.
for that day, for that shopping trip, was a business expense.
Yeah.
That's so smart.
And the other thing that he has helped me with throughout the year has been measuring garments, because that is so time consuming.
Yep.
I would. It just makes my head hurt to think about it, and I do it. But he also cleans up my shoes, measures the garments. What I would like is for him to take over an entire division of my store.
A department.
Yes,
Men's department.
I would promote him from the mailroom
Yeah.
to department head.
So it's like a category of goods, like
Right.
yeah.
That he could, because his big concern is that he is going to step on my toes because I do things a certain way. I have a process. He doesn't always think that my process is as efficient as it could be, but I always say there's a reason why I do it the way I do it. Because if you leave out this step, then you're missing.
So it may be a
this.
little competition might
Right.
be helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, like you can sell the
So I'm saying, look, take over the ties, the scarves, the men's shoes, the men's hats. And run it any way you want it. We'll either open you a store or we'll
just
keep it under
share.
my name, and
Right.
But this is your product. You do with it what you want, and that way there's no. I mean, obviously, I have to teach him the process, and then he can do whatever he wants.
So does it seem difficult, like all the technical stuff? Because, it's new people. I'm always amazed when new people start on eBay, because it is a lot of little details that you have
details.
The shipping alone,
Yeah.
the shipping and postage information alone, which is constantly evolving, is an entire thing unto itself.
Right.
That has nothing to do with measuring and weighing and
Right.
writing a description.
to... It's a whole other...
And my feeling is although taking over or creating a separate little entity that does one little segment, I'm also a believer in the division of labor, and I don't want to learn the shipping. There's no benefit for both of us.
I'm the same way.
There's no benefit for both of us to be experts in shipping.
Exactly.
And she knows how to write listings that are eye-catching. I'm better. I feel more comfortable just doing what I know, which is measuring, polishing, cleaning, knowing where it is on the shelf, and being able to go and pull items that have sold. I'm not sure I want to get into other areas that she's already qualified.
I'm the same way. I mean, we've been having stores since 2008, and I just learned how to actually
Do a listing.
list items. Up until now, I've done exactly what you just said. I was the guy who just kind of got everything is ready to be done,
Which, honestly, that is the time-consuming, mindless, mind-numbing part of the business.
It's the unglamorous part
It's
of it.
It's all unglamorous until you sell something.
Yeah.
Right, but it's so important that that's done and done correctly.
Yeah.
Right.
So don't minimize that,
Sure.
because it's a huge help to me when I go down to the basement and there are 40 men's coats and they've all been measured and weighed.
You're like, yes.
I grab that coat, photograph that tag, boom, I'm off to the races.
Yeah.
But if I have to stop and go, oh, what's the chest measurement on this?
Yeah.
It just it just puts me behind from the get-go.
So do you guys imagine then being in the basement, like is waking up, drinking coffee, it's 10 a.m. or something, both going down there and putting in 4 hours together?
No.
Turn on the radio.
No, I envision Mark getting up at 8 o'clock, heading for the golf course, hitting, playing 9 holes, coming home, having a nice breakfast, and I hand him the list. Here's the list. This, and this. You go do this. I've already done this and this. That's how I envision it.
How about you?
Pretty much that. I see in retirement, and again, this is not a full-time, have-to-have source of income.
Right.
This is supplemental income.
Right.
So you can pick a day and say, today we're both going to go to the golf course, and we'll do some packing and shipping, but we're not listing today, we're not measuring today, and you can take a day off. And it's not like this has got to put food on the table type of income. So, but I see a minimum of 4 hours, 5 hours of dedicated to the business.
Yeah.
And not necessarily 4 hours every day. It could be 6 hours one day, 2 hours another day.
Yeah, you can fluctuate.
That's the beauty of the business.
Yeah, and if we want to go travel and go to the beach instead of working that day, then we do what we want to do later.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I envision as the retirement model. This is not
I think that model is true for even us. I mean, we're here for 9 days and our store's still on, but we're not really doing much eBay at all.
Right.
I mean,
Other than shopping.
little bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. And that's, I guess, the benefit that you guys have already having an established business is that you're just kind of...
But I think for people going into retirement, I mean, let's say you go into retirement, you're on a fixed income, you want to stay active, you want to do something. I'm really fortunate that Mark's probably the only male I've ever shopped with that I can tolerate. 99% of my girlfriends I can't tolerate. It's like I'd rather be by myself.
You have to be patient.
But, he has learned a lot about the shopping, and he makes great finds, and I can veto it or not, whatever.
And my role in the shopping expeditions is when she finds a garment, she looks at the tag, she glances at it, and then I have to go through it carefully, looking for rips, tears, moth holes, missing buttons, stains on the inside, stuff that you have to go through and carefully look at.
Or when I find the really gigantic but awesome 60s lamp that I want to bring home, he says, do we really want to move that to the new condo?
No. Yeah.
And then I put it down.
Yeah.
I think we'll find our niche as things go along, and we'll find out what's comfortable for us in interacting. We both have pretty strong ideas about how things should work. Not always the same idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all eBay sellers, and even us included, we always are sometimes hesitant to tell people our business, or we always have to kind of pick and choose who we want to tell, how much detail, because a lot of people don't get it because it's such a weird kind of thing to sell things
understand,
online, especially to put so much time into it. Did you guys talk about this among people? Or not really?
Well, certain people. I mean, a lot of my friends know because I knew them from the antique business, and they all know that I do it. But I think what's interesting with people who aren't familiar with the eBay as a full-time job, they cannot conceive of you making enough money. They just think of it as, you're selling bubblegum wrappers, or I don't know what they think you're selling.
Or, it's like a yard sale. Oh, cool, it's
or flea market. Yeah.
Right.
They're like, oh, you do eBay? I mean, there's always this kind of mocking.
Yes.
What? There's definitely a feeling that you're not a serious person. It couldn't be a serious business.
Right.
Because... you're selling NASCAR collectibles or whatever. I don't know.
That's how they envision it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that the average person here's the word eBay associates it with selling a coat for $700 or
Right.
selling boots for $800
Right.
that you found at a thrift store. I mean, that just never occurs
Yeah.
to them. Or selling a pie bird I found in a box on the street for $125.
Yeah, that's a good story.
You know,
Yeah,
so
exactly. We
they don't get it.
We know a seller in Montreal who we've talked about on the podcast. He only sources out of the trash. He finds the most amazing stuff.
honestly,
It's like, can you believe it?
we live on an Air Force base, and there's such a turnover in personnel on a almost monthly basis. And as soon as the moving van leaves, there's a pile of stuff on the
Yeah,
street.
it's gold.
And I could start an entire business on car seats and baby strollers if that's what I wanted to do for free. And,
It's unbelievable.
and I just have to mention this one thing is that last year our neighbors were moved to Korea, and I noticed that every day, all day long, people were coming up on her front porch and picking up bags and shoving something through the mail slot. And I thought, what is she doing? Like, why are these people? What are they putting in the mail slot? So I discovered that she was selling on the base Facebook page. She sold everything in her house before they moved to Korea on Facebook. So I thought to myself,
Yeah.
well, I can do that. We had a garage full of stuff that I didn't want to put on eBay, and I've been posting it on Facebook. It has to be cheap,
Yeah.
much cheaper
They want a
than
bargain.
you know. I've sold stuff for $3, but it's gone, and I come home and there's $30 or $40 on the floor.
Through the mail
Through the
slot.
mail
That's
slot.
what they were putting through the mail
So
slot.
there's no listing. You take one photograph, boom, and there are all these little yard sale sites on Facebook for individual neighborhoods that I've discovered, which are a great way to just get rid of, a lawn chair that you don't want anymore.
Well, on our blog, people actually talk about they source stuff that way.
Right,
They'll
right.
buy things for really cheap
Right.
and then resell it on eBay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, is this something you think you'll talk about with your friends on the golf course, or is it like a? I struggle with this too. Like, how much do I tell my friends?
It's interesting because I work for the government, and people work 40 hours a week for a fixed paycheck, and I don't think they grasp the potential of eBay. And they think it's the little housewife selling
Baby clothes.
baby clothes or maybe some comic books or
Yeah.
this, and don't realize the potential in profit if you do it correctly and you do it well and you do your homework. You can make really good money.
Like, did you just find a Burberry jacket recently?
At the
or-
thrift store.
Yeah.
Yeah, at a thrift store, and it was expensive for the thrift store
With like $50, right?
$50.
for $50.
Right.
But
It's mint.
It's
Yeah.
a beautiful jacket. It hasn't been worn very much. It's a very large size. So there's somebody out there who's very large
Who's the
that,
52 extra long?
Wow.
that
That's a big one.
wouldn't go in and pay.
$700 plus.
Well, those
Yeah,
trench
that's
coats with the wool liners new are $1,600
Yep.
at Burberry right
Wow.
now.
Yep. You'll sell it.
Yeah.
You'll
And
definitely
so it's
sell
great.
it.
Well, the other thing I wanted to say about the retirement thing,
Sure.
and especially the difference between Mark and I, because Mark has had a real job most of his life, and I have not. So for me, I always feel like I'm
Yeah.
retired,
Right.
because I have had this flexibility in my life that even when I was doing the art shows and the kids were little, I was working a lot, but I was home creating stuff at home and then going away on the weekends, and I could bring the kids with me or not. So for me, the whole retirement mentality of, I'm not going to be working anymore, I don't get that. And I think he's
Right.
a little more worried about the transition than I am, because for
I
me
think
it's no
I think
transition.
it is a transition.
Sure.
But for
I
me,
work
it's
with
not.
people who we had this person who's been working civil service, and they told him he had to retire.
Because he's just too, or
He
hit that limit.
he hit his 70s, and he had 40-something years, and that was his life to go to work. They said, no, you have to retire now. And
Go have some fun.
and I think a lot of people don't retire because they're afraid of the transition.
Right.
They know what they know.
Is it time or is it a money? I mean, like,
It's
what
I
are they
think it's
afraid
a
of?
lot of it's the unknown.
The unknown.
Yeah.
A lot of people work for the social benefits, the pay. They know what the income is. And here's the other thing that I've been mentally struggling with is when you work for the civil service and you've put money away into your 401k or your IRA, and every year you're trying to put that money back, and then all of a sudden you're going to draw a line, you're no longer putting it back, you're going to start drawing it out. That's a big mental switch.
Yeah.
To say, I'm no longer saving for the future is here,
Yeah.
now I've got to start drawing this money out to live on. That's a big mental
Yeah.
transition.
Yeah.
And I think for men especially, men do not have the social life that women have. Men tend to not have, especially the men who work in these jobs, their social interaction occurs at work.
We do, we just don't tell the women.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Secret lives.
I literally said to him 2 years ago, please go find a buddy and go play golf. You need a friend. You need a friend that isn't your wife. And I don't think a lot of wives encourage their husbands to do it. They complain about, the husband comes home, he sits on the couch, he watches TV. Well, encourage him to go do something else, because when he does retire, if he doesn't have that something else, whether it's golf or cutting the grass, whatever,
Measuring clothes.
he's going to
Measuring
be,
jagged.
he's going to be in trouble. And I think a lot of marriages go into a slump because the husband's sitting in the chair all day, and women basically never stop working. Whether they're actually working at a job or whether they're doing
Raising kids.
or whatever. But we have a much more, a bigger fabric of social life, I think, for the most part, than men do. And I think it's easier for us to, we have a girlfriend, we go out for coffee, we go, whatever. And men just don't do that as much.
Yeah. Now, do you guys imagine part of it, because we love this part of eBay, is going to auctions?
Right.
Or flea
Estate
markets,
sales.
estate sales. I mean, is that fun for you
Well,
guys?
yeah. And we haven't had that opportunity.
And that's another thing about being in a fixed job in a fixed location where I've got to work Monday through Friday. Retirement is going to give us the opportunity to go and seek out other places and
To shop.
and to find stuff. And
Right.
we'd like to do estate sales, but a lot of them start on Thursday.
Right.
Thursday through Sunday, and by
Right.
Saturday and Sunday,
It's
the
gone.
good stuff's been picked over.
Yeah.
But now you'll be able to do that.
Right.
Like it's a Tuesday. Let's go to an auction.
Right,
Yeah.
Let's go-
exactly.
I heard Ernie die. Let's go buy the stuff.
Right. Well, and there's an auction. There was an auction in the town where we just sold a house, and it was Friday night, and the preview was at 5:00. Well, it was an hour away from us.
Yeah,
By the time
it's
he got
tough.
out of work,
Yeah.
and
It's
we
a whole
fought
thing.
traffic,
Yeah.
and those are good auctions.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
town in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
But now we can do those things.
Yeah.
Because really, I have relied on a chain of thrift stores for 95% of my
Yeah.
inventory, and I do.
Savers.
And I
Yeah.
do very well there.
Sure.
Right.
But I know from the few yard sales and estate sales that we've been to over the last couple of years that I do so much better
Right.
at
The
those.
prices at the
Outside.
estate sales are much better than.
Then see.
Savers prices have gone up, and
Yeah.
their selection is
Yeah.
pretty stagnant.
Yeah.
For clothing, that's where a lot of the source comes from. But estate sales is where you find things like the photo albums
Right.
from the 30s and 40s. That
Yeah.
people, the collectible type things.
Well, something that we've all been talking about is, we all do a good business where we're selling items for $30, $40.
Right.
That stuff is everywhere.
Yep.
So it's just about working, and it's about just a listing and churning, and it's cool. But we've all been talking about how to start spending more time finding the more collectible
Right.
things,
Right.
Higher
being
end.
willing to pay more
Yep.
for it,
Yep.
pay $100 for something that you can sell for $700, but that means that you have to really be knowledgeable and do a
Yeah.
research,
And have time. Like
and
you said.
that might be interesting for you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, and I kind of see us going in that direction because one, we've got the time to do that,
Yeah.
but it takes the same amount of time to put a $20 item up as it does to put a $200.
Jay says that all the
$2,000,
time.
Right.
yeah, $20,000.
All the time.
So if you can get your inventory geared more towards the collectibles, the difference is you spend more time finding that $2,000 or that
It all takes a lot of
$200.
time. It's just where you want to spend that time. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Like it's easy to find the $30 item.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And then it just takes time to a list. It takes a lot longer, or at least for us, to find
Yeah,
the thing
that-
that's going to sell for.
The Holy Grail.
And then also, you have to be, I find, be more patient for it to sell.
Correct.
It could take a year for something to sell because you got to find the
right
very
person.
right person.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
But
So-
there's a lot of $30 items that
Yeah.
they take a year also.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the right person
Right.
at the right time.
But you don't have that money tied up. Like, I don't mind having $20 or $2
Right.
tied up for
Exactly.
a year.
Yeah.
If I'm spending $100 or $500 on something, that money is going to be tied up for.
Yeah.
So is that? So are you willing to take those kind of chances, spending?
I think
Oh,
in
yeah.
the future
Yeah.
it's going to go
Yeah.
more that direction.
Right.
And I've done that on a much smaller scale. We went to an estate sale, and they had a beautiful Danish wooden ice bucket, and they wanted $25 for it. Well, most times I would never spend that kind of
Yeah.
money, but it was, I'll get the money,
Yeah.
you know, and I'll spend the money.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a small ticket item, but for us, like I know you guys have done a lot of furniture, and for us, I see furniture all the time, and I think, oh, this is great, and then I go, oh,
Yeah.
Deal with it.
I
know.
can't deal with it anymore. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, that's why furniture is fairly cheap to buy at auctions. because
deal with it.
anyone that's willing to buy it already has a house full of it, and then
right,
no one else wants it.
it
you know?
takes space. It's got to be a dry space.
Yep.
It's all that stuff.
You got to move it. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're just, I'm having done antiques for a while, and I did very well with furniture when I had my, the antique brick and mortar store, but I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I mean, the idea that I can sell a pillow sham for $30 that I paid $1 for, and it goes in a little plastic envelope for
too good.
$3 postage, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm selling these from now on.
No.
And I have been looking for, this is something else that I've been kind of honing, is looking for, going to my thrift stores, the chain of thrift stores, and trying to find, because every time I go, I've noticed that they've decided, oh, this is a hot item, we're going to mark this up. For example, years ago, I could go in there and buy an Italian leather handbag for $3. Well, they're $24 now
Right.
at the thrift store. So I started trying to find the categories that they did not consider to be high value items. And I started out with, I think it was shower curtains. I just out of the blue one day, I'm looking through shower curtains, I spot these two beautiful pristine Pottery Barn shower curtains for $3 a piece, and I thought, well, I'll try that. They were gone overnight for $39.99. Well, I looked on Pottery Barn; they were $100.
Yeah.
So I started buying high-end shower curtains, and I sell them all the time. Then they started marking those up. Now they're $7.
Because they're hearing this right now.
They're
like,
on eBay.
Yeah, exactly. So then I started looking at window valances. And the weird thing about window valances is I thought, well, who's going to buy a single window valance? Why would anybody do that? Everybody wants the matchy-matchy. Well, the DIY craze now,
Yeah.
with all the decorating shows,
Yeah.
has been a bonanza for all of us.
So I like some perspective here because people argue about this. And on one side, people say that things are just getting so expensive at these thrift stores.
Yeah.
Because I guess more people are buying and selling, maybe. But then But then the other side is I think more people are buying online. So I'm wondering, in your opinion, over the past 10 years, is it a wash? I mean, prices are higher, but you can sell more. And
I think it is a wash because, for example, I'll pay on average now up to $10 for a handbag, if it's a good handbag. Now, I might have sold that handbag 10 years ago that I bought for $2. I might have only gotten $24 for it. Now I'm getting $40 for it. Mm-hmm. So I paid more, but I'm getting more.
Right.
More people are shopping online. I just looked at my eBay stats, and it said that 20% of the products I sold in the last 3 months were sold on mobile devices. Mm-hmm. I dropped garage sale because my listings didn't show up as well.
That's an application on the computer, right?
Correct. A software listing application. And I'm listing directly into eBay now, and using one of their templates. And I just think that, we all have to keep pace with what the buyers are doing. So I do think it's a wash. But the thrift stores have definitely, thanks to Macklemore, people are shopping the thrifts. I actually spoke to a manager at one of the Savers, and I said, "You guys are killing me here.
Yeah, with these prices.
With these prices, I've got no margin left." And she said, "Well, the dealers who come here," and I told her, that 40% of your customers are dealers. We're all looking to resell." And she said, "Well, the dealers are doing themselves in because if it's a hot item, they will pay the price that we put on it. If that item stayed here and languished at this high price, the corporate structure would go, these aren't selling, we got to drop the price. But if you let it languish, some other dealer's going to buy it. So
you can't.
It's a catch-22.
Yeah.
But they keep raising the prices, and we keep
buying stuff.
But I've totally changed my approach to buying.
Yeah.
I only go when there's a sale. I only go when they give out the 30% off coupons.
Yep.
I can't pay full price anymore.
Yeah.
So when you guys are at the new condo, aren't you going to be far away from all of your old shopping?
No, actually, 2 of the better stores are about 5 miles away.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll actually be closer.
Yeah. And we do road trips.
Yeah.
We'll travel an hour and a half, especially if I have a 30% off coupon, we'll hit 2 stores in a day.
Yeah.
And we just did that just before we came down here. I had a 30% off. We traveled up to New Hampshire.
You're like texting me photos. You're like, look at this, look at this, look at this. Like all this stuff.
I got some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And, I spent $200. $50 of it was the Burberry.
Yep, that's not bad.
And that'll be it for me for the year. Because I have definitely cut back.
And the year ends next week, so...
I've cut back, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
I was expecting maybe you to shake your head.
Yes.
No. So you guys, if we can talk about this a bit more, you guys have a condo in Florida.
Correct.
So have you guys figured out the time you're going to spend, or you'll just kind of make it up as you go along? Like 8 and 2, 6 and 6.
I think a lot of it is going to be year to year, weather dependent. Whether we want to stop and visit friends and family.
Yep.
My kids and grandkids are out west, and retirement's going to allow us more time to travel.
Yep.
But essentially, we're not going to be up here in the New England states shoveling snow in the winter.
Yeah.
That may be going to visit or just going to Florida.
So could you guys actually keep all your inventory in your East Coast home and then just have a whole different inventory just stored down in Florida, and you just flip on the stores?
I think we could. I've thought about that a lot. We just rented a storage unit to keep some excess furniture. And
in Florida.
Yeah. And it's climate controlled. They have air conditioning. It never goes below 78 degrees. So theoretically, I could store inventory there
if you wanted to, and buy down there.
There's good places we know where to go to shop in Florida.
Yep.
There's a lot of the backwoods antique stores.
Right.
If you're
and the estate sales.
There's estate sales and the usual Salvation Army, Goodwill. So it may, we're not sure. I guess is the answer. But
Cool.
Again, the beauty is we don't need this to put food on the table.
Right.
Yep.
This is supplemental. So it will work. It'll evolve
Yep.
As we go.
So my dad just retired, I guess, this past year, and he, like you, I guess, he's worked his whole life, worked for, I think, only 3 different institutions. He's got a good attitude about it, but I can sense in him he has a little bit of just like,
What do I
anxiety.
do?
I didn't know it was going to be like this, or I didn't know,
Yeah.
Right.
So are you mainly excited, or is it?
I am.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
does it
I'm
help
ready.
having?
I am mentally ready.
Yeah. So does it help having a wife who has kind of always been,
Independent and
freestyle?
retired.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. I mean,
Good.
It's something for me to transition into.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what I'm going to do. I have
Right.
ideas on what I'm going to do
Yeah.
when I retire, and I think a lot of people that work in a 9 to 5 setting aren't sure what they're going to do. They think they know, but I think there's always a little bit of doubt.
Just think about that. You can wake up and do anything you want.
Well, that's how I always felt.
And for somebody who's retired from the military and
Sure.
then worked civil service, that's almost a scary thought.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I think of my father too. I mean, he just always had people depending on him too. I mean, going to work wasn't something that was just by choice. He had to do it because he had kids and
Well, other
family.
people are setting your schedule. So that's taken that decision making out. So
Right.
so now if nobody's setting your schedule except you've got to decide.
Right.
And then it's, wait a minute, I've never had to do this before.
But see, now I get to set the schedule.
We know who's going to set the schedule.
That's the other scary part.
Maybe you'll become like a 12-year-old boy where you're just like eating ice cream for breakfast, sleeping all day.
That's not happening.
Well, it's our health is very important.
Yeah.
So we do things that are physically to keep us physically fit, trying to eat right,
Yeah.
exercise, and now be able to travel and visit friends we haven't seen in years and those kinds of things, and fit it into a business that provides a source of income.
I think that's the exciting part is we were talking about coming to New York and Mark has to be back at work on Monday, so it was like, okay, so we've got X number of days and then we've got to be back on the train, we've got to do this, and we were saying, gee, if he was retired, we could stay here for 2 weeks if we wanted.
It
Absolutely.
can be open-ended.
Yeah, open-ended.
When he gets bored.
Or come here and after 6 days we go, let's go someplace else.
Somewhere else. Yay, that sounds fun.
Well, the other thing is you don't have to cram everything into a set time because somebody's
Right.
made the decision you need to be back to work.
Yeah.
But-
You can space things out when it's either less expensive, more
Yeah.
convenient,
Right.
the weather's better. I mean, there's all these things that you cannot go around if you've got to be back to work on a certain day. We've got 3 days. You got to cram it in these 3 days, regardless of the weather, regardless of airfares
Yeah.
are up because it's a holiday. No, we can travel when the airfares are down and go when the weather's better.
I think he's heard our podcast. We were just talking about this, how for us, because our schedules are so open, instead of having to travel on a holiday, a
Right.
weekend like
Right.
Thanksgiving when it's so crazy and expensive,
Right.
Yeah.
you guys came a week later.
And it was so much more
Quieter
fun.
and cheaper.
At the airport and
Right.
the Amtrak.
I mean, what's most important is the family rather than
rather than that has to be that time.
day.
that specific day.
We have
But
our-
again, it's whoever's setting your schedule,
Exactly.
whether it's you or somebody else.
Right.
Right.
So yeah.
I think that's the part that is really appealing about
Yeah.
finally retiring.
So what is that last day going to be like at your work? Do they throw like a party, or is it just like you kind of like clock out and it's like
it's however you want it to
I'm
be,
out.
pretty much. I mean, some
Yeah.
people like the going away, the acknowledgement, and the
yeah,
people coming up and saying, "Yeah, we've been here doing this for X number of years, and some people like to just quietly slip out the door, no fanfare.
How about you? You're the quieter.
They're going to look around and where'd Mark go? Why is his office empty?
There's like a single piece of paper just like floating down.
Right. Your last time.
Are you currently, is there a person you're teaching your job, or do they just...
No, but it's interesting how many people are asking me when I'm going to retire. Because there's only X number of people that do what I'm doing, and they're all kind of waiting to see when my slot is going to be open. Because people don't retire very often.
Yeah.
They occasionally move. You have to move in my career field to go up the ladder. And we're all kind of stagnant.
And we talked about that a couple of years ago, right after we got married, was if he wanted to get an increase in pay or in promotion. Oh, there's tons of jobs in D.C., but the pay raise wouldn't even have covered the cost of living. And he has a flex schedule now where every other week he has Friday off. Well, you wouldn't be doing that in D.C.
Yeah.
So it just didn't make any sense at all to take a job like that, where this job is...
If I was in my 20s, early 30s, that's who's moving around trying to get up the ladder.
Maximize.
But there's a group of people that in this career field that work for the military, retired from the military, and have that income, and then they are working civil service to get another smaller income, and they're not looking to move. They're looking to do something to fill that gap between military retirement and full retirement. That's where I'm at.
Because you look at guys who went in the military when they're 20, when they're 40, they got 20 years in.
Yep.
And they're young, but they can't just say, that's it, I'm never working again.
Right.
I mean, they've got another 25 years of work.
Yeah.
So the start of the next, or there's already an eBay business now. We're thinking about a year and a half is when it gets moved over to the condo.
Right.
And you guys work together, right?
Right. So after this trip, we get home, we get through New Year's. There's always that week between Christmas and New Year's where nothing happens. But my goal for the next 16 months is to list and flush out as much inventory, especially the non-essential, what I consider the non-essential inventory, as I possibly can, to move as little as I can.
Now, I saw the open offer. I'll pull up
here's
truck.
the offer.
5 cents on the dollar. All right. Anything you want.
That's so tempting. Yeah, really.
Hey.
That price went down.
Yeah, it sure did.
The closer it gets, the more desperate.
I think the last offer was $5,000.
5,000 for every.
She's laughing now.
I think that was for everything. Though.
Yeah, it was.
I think it's by the pound.
By the pound.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So then we can talk again in about like a year and a half, or
see how it goes.
I'd love to see how the new space is.
I'm excited.
1,000 square foot basement.
Oh my God.
That's the size of my house.
Our house is 1,200 square feet.
Yeah,
so
to have a basement.
And I bought all those commercial clothing racks.
Oh yeah.
When I moved to the house we're in now, and what's so great about those is they're 6 feet, 8 feet long, something like that. But then we bought extenders that will hook them to another rack, and that gives you an additional 3 feet in between racks. And I'm hoping I can get all my clothing. By the time we move, I will have gotten the clothing down that they will just fit on those rolling racks, and I won't have to put any racks up in the ceiling like I have now.
Yeah.
And I'm really making a lot of progress with the men's coats, sweaters, jackets, because I've really been pushing those.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Listing them at lower prices just to
not buying anymore.
Not buying anymore.
The key.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
That's the hard one.
Except the occasional Burberry.
Well, you find a Burberry, you buy it. But.
So.
Cool. All right.
Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, it's fun to be here in New York with you guys.
Yeah.